How's it going, everybody? This is Rob and Novakast back with another video for you guys. And oh boy, this one is a real tearjerker. We're going to be talking more about WandaVision and episode 8. Yeah, that one, that's a sad episode. That was a very, very sad episode. And by the way, in case people have been following me doing these reviews, I ask you guys to please watch the show if you haven't, because I'll be talking about spoilers. Because there's some interesting stuff. And it actually, I will say with this episode, I had to look back at some of the films, because I don't think in any regard, in the almost so far with every single film that we've seen Wanda in, I don't think she is ever referred to as the Scarlet Witch. And I think in other, and I'm sure somebody's gonna like call me out on that, but I don't think at any point have we ever heard her be referred to the Scarlet Witch. I don't know, but it's interesting, and it actually they sort of bring that up. In this particular episode, it more focuses on Wanda and her abilities. Like, how is she so strong? And it shows, actually, at first, Agatha Harkness's origin, where, and I don't know the character. I haven't read any of the comic books, so I don't know this character mostly, but the way they kind of present this character is really interesting, where apparently she was part of a witch coven who, and in some sense it kind of reminded me of the one of the villains for Doctor Strange, where they delve into magic that they weren't supposed to. But anyways, Agatha is pretty much tied at the stake by her own coven, and they plan to eliminate her because she was delving in magic that she was not supposed to delve into. Which is really interesting when they try to kill her too, because instead of them killing her, she ends up killing them, stealing their life force and power, and then going after one of the other witches, which turns out to be her own mother, proceeding to kill her, taking a brooch that the mother character had, and kind of just going about whatever plans she has. And with this episode, again, we get more detail into Wanda and her, I guess to some extent, her, not only her past, not only as to why like every one of the earlier episodes was based on a sitcom, but just a lot of shit. We have, I guess, in some sense, Agatha going through, for at least to kind of stick with the genre, going through episodes of Wanda's past to try to figure out how Wanda is so strong. We start off with Circovia, where we have Wanda and Pietro, and their experiences as children, and we get to see why she's so fascinated with sitcoms, which, you know, I will say that the moment with her father and her mother, or their father and mother, is really, really well done. And we even get to witness the infamous Stark missile scene, where the kids' parents are killed, and we see Wanda and Pietro under some rubble, and right next to them is the infamous Stark missile. And looking at some other people's reactions to this episode, something that they started bringing up is the fact that, because some people were especially with the, I guess, the commercials, the ads that have been popping up throughout the earlier episodes, People were speculating that it might be involved, like, in correlation, or at least kind of referencing the Infinity Stones, but now that we, like, have more context, it wasn't referencing the Infinity Stones at any point. If anything, it's referencing her past. Like, for instance, one of the first episodes where we have a toaster that has a blinking light, it was made by Stark. And in some sense, you see the missile has a red blinking light, and once again, it's made by Stark. So in some sense, we get a variety of different things that reference Wanda's past. And for a brief second, we get a moment where it seems like young Wanda might have done something to the missile, and Agatha starts to speculate that, I mean, if she's seen, or at least is seeing through Wanda's past, that the abilities that Wanda had were there, or at least they were dormant. So there was already something there, but they had to go further as to how she became more powerful. By which we then see how she, I guess, became more powerful to some extent, where we see her being tested on by Hydra, and apparently the way she got her abilities, or at least her abilities amplified, was having contact with the scepter, or the Infinity Stone inside the scepter, which we all know was the Mind Stone. And kind of adding on to what some things that have been said in, like, let's say the Avengers, where apparently having any, like, interaction or contact with the scepter would make them see things, or at least have visions to some extent. Before Wanda, or at least Wanda has contact with the Infinity Stone, she has a vision of the gem, or the housing of the Infinity Stone, pop out of the scepter, break apart, and we see a figure in a blinding light. Now, a lot of people are speculating that it could be Wanda, which I think that might be as well, or at least Wanda at her full strength. And later on, we find out that Hydra is trying to figure out what happened, because in some sense, after her interaction, after they brought her back to her cell, apparently for the video, they can't tell what happened because there is a time skip where you see her standing, and a second later, like not even a second, she's on the ground, and the Hydra's trying to wonder what happened. And Agatha is kind of becoming more and more convinced that, okay, yes, there was obviously some power, but it became more apparent after the contact with the Infinity Stone. So after that, we did get a really, really touching scene with Wanda and Vision. And this is apparently right after the events in Circovia, where Wanda is basically mourning the loss of her brother. And she's watching Malcolm in the Middle, which I thought was great, because that is kind of a classic sitcom show. And we have a moment where Wanda and Vision are like kind of I guess Vision is trying to be supportive, or trying to understand like what she's going through, and in some sense kind of being relatable by trying to understand the humor in some of the sitcom, which I thought was, I honestly, the best way I could put that was adorable. Okay, I thought that it was clear that these two characters were like kind of had a connection to an extent, and honestly, having a scene like that was really, really great. After that, now I will say that this is probably one of the greatest scenes, or at least probably one of the most interesting in some sense, where we get a scene where Wanda, or at least later on after Endgame, after Thanos, after defeating Thanos, destroying him, Wanda proceeds to go to the Sword base and demands to recover, or at least see, Vision's body. And in some sense, the active director, which I believe was Harkin, buzzes her in, and Wanda, in horror, sees Harkin and his team basically dismantling Vision. Now there was a quick kind of sly comment that he makes about bringing Vision back to life, but we don't. I mean, when I first heard that, I didn't understand it, but we find out later on what he was trying to do. And in this scene, and by the way, this is the scene that we see earlier in one of the episodes where Harkin tries to claim that Wanda broke into the Sword base and stole Vision's body, when it turns out that's not the case. I mean, if anything, Wanda, all she wanted to do was bury Vision, because, I mean, when he was alive, he kind of seemed more than just a machine, but Harkin, unfortunately, doesn't see it that way. So what ends up happening is, instead of taking the body like Harkin tried to claim in the briefing in one of the earlier episodes, Wanda leaves. She doesn't take the body. And especially since Harkin wasn't even going to relinquish Vision's body. Because she says she wants to bury him. Like, because again, she loved him and treated him more than just a machine. And Harkin is basically like, we can't let you take, millions of dollars worth of vibranium. Which, obviously, saying it like that clearly shows what his motives are, what kind of, what he really wants to do with Vision. So, Wanda leaves, she leaves the Sword base, and then goes to Westview. And it turns out, oh gosh, this is probably one of the most touching and most heartbreaking, moments of the episode. Because slowly and surely it's being found out, or at least Agatha is uncovering the fact that due to loss, I don't know if I could say due to loss, Wanda is at her strongest, or at least displays the most, I guess, immense amount of power that she can produce. And this is how the hex is created, because what ends up happening is Wanda goes to Westview. And again, this is probably one of the most heartbreaking scenes of the episode, where she goes to what looks like a lot, or for an unfinished house. And since she left the Sword base, she's been holding on to a letter. What the letter is the deed to the land for the lot, where it says on the piece of paper, where we something along the lines of where we'll grow old together, V. That scene is just so freaking, it just stabs you in the gut, really, because it just shows especially for Vision, it just goes to show how much he cared for Wanda, and in some sense that everything was their future, to some extent, was completely just demolished when Thanos freaking killed Vision. I'm gonna say I thought his death hurt before, when we lost him in Infinity War, but it turns out, oh no, we had to add more to the pain. So yeah, and due to just the overbearing emotion of loss and grief, Wanda then just unleashes a burst of energy that not only builds the house, but creates a barrier, creates the hex, and in this new reality, recreates Vision. And in this case, and in this whole thing, we figure out finally, like, why she did the things she did. It's at this point and why she decided to, or at least wanted to stay in this little miniature, I guess, slice of heaven to some extent, is because of her own grief. She doesn't want to leave. And in some sense, doesn't want to understand how she did it. But because of Agatha, we find out why. Apparently, after hearing the cries of her own kids, Wanda goes outside, sees Agatha, which honestly, Agatha's costume is like really, really cool. Has her kids hostage and explains that apparently there was a myth that she didn't think would be true or ever true. But it turns out that Wanda might be that case, where apparently there is a witch who can produce, I guess, chaos magic. And for the first time, again, because I think this is the first time she has ever referred this, Wanda is referred to or as the Scarlet Witch. And that's how the episode ends. Now, with the last couple episodes, we've been getting end credit scenes. And this one, although in the back of my, like when I watched it, in the back of my mind, I figured something like this was going to happen, especially with Harkin, but I didn't, and it kind of made me mad a little bit. And adds more to the hurt. So, apparently, in one of the early episodes, they brought a drone into the Hex, and due to that drone, they were able to collect some of the energy that has been produced from Wanda through the Hex. And with that, power a brand new Vision. Or at least rebuilt Vision. Under the control of Sword. That, I'm gonna say, is, oh my gosh, that really, really fucking irritated me so much. And it just, like, I have a feeling ultimately I was just like, yeah, we're gonna have this whole thing where Vision versus Vision, and in some sense, Wanda is going to have to accept her loss. And the whole entire thing is, like, she's going to break down the Hex. I mean, I think that's made apparent already. It's inevitable. She's going to have to do that. But it hurts. It hurts so much. I'm looking forward to the next episode. Apparently, it's rumored that there's supposed to be a cameo actor, which, looking at some of other people's reactions, or at least some people's theories, just a lot of people are kind of assuming that it might be Tobey Maguire. I doubt it, but who knows? Might happen. Who knows? But alright, I think I've talked enough about WandaVision, or at least episode 8. Thank you guys so much for watching. Truly appreciate it. If you guys can, please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. If you guys want to follow us on social media, links are in the description down below, as well as check out our daily content and the weekly podcast. With that being said, this is Rob of Novakast signing off. Have a good one, and take care. Peace.
2, 3, 5.